Give me a few minutes, I think, or a few seconds. I think we are actually good on Zoom and good on YouTube. We're ready to go.
Okay. We hereby call the February 8th, 2023 Rockbridge County Planning Commission meeting to order. I will begin with a roll call. Commission Member Hennis, I'm here. Commission Member Kramer.
Here.
Commission Member Lucas, absent. Commission Member Whitmore, absent. Commission Member Watkins.
Here.
In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. One, to join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar. The link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by phone. At this time, we'll proceed with the meeting and we will begin with citizen comments. Anything that is not on the agenda, we welcome you to speak at this time. Do we have anyone physically here to speak?
I don't believe so. Check the roster.
Okay. Okay, anyone wishing to make a citizen comment by Zoom or phone?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
We are now on to election of officers, which is agenda item 3.
So this would be and every year, the calendar year, we are required, or we're supposed to, first meeting of the year, elect election of officer, which of course includes chair, vice chair, and secretary. I failed to do that last month, so playing catch up this month. The current roster, if you will, is Ms. Hennis serves as chair. Kimberly Hines actually served as vice chair, and myself, Chris Layden, serves as the secretary. I really never unearthed that Kimberly, of course, resigned in June of 2022. July of 2022. And I never unearthed, if you will, that she was the chair because of your record of attending the meeting. So with that being said, she still stands as chair, but obviously will no longer be a vice chair. Yes. So we can do it all in one motion, and that could be a motion to elect X as the chair, Y as the vice chair, and Z as the secretary.
You have someone who wants to volunteer for the vice chair position? David Whitmore? Okay. Okay, so you're going to do it all together. So me as chair.
I nominate you as the chair, David Whitmore as the vice chair, and Chris as the secretary.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Very good. Thanks. Okay, so now we are on to the approval of the January 11th, 2023 meeting minutes, and staff has some additions or changes to those, I believe.
Yes. So after the meeting, Mr. Whitmore had some very minor grammatical adjustments, essentially. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a name that was placed in there incorrectly, and then a name that was left out from the audience members who were present.
Okay.
So any minor changes like that, I think y'all approved as submitted, and we went back and made some very minor changes. With that being said, we just wanted to update y'all.
Okay. So now we are looking at the January 11th, 2023 minutes, right?
Yes.
To look at those.
I make a motion to approve as submitted with
Okay.
the
In a second, all in favor? Aye. So the motion passes. We do have to go back. We missed the planning meeting schedule. We have to approve of the planning commission meeting schedule for 2023. It looks like it's the second Wednesday of every month.
Yes, it's same location, same schedule. Again, this was supposed to be done in the first calendar year. I failed to put it on there, so playing catch up. There were no conflicts with the second Wednesday of the month, so it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the new meeting schedule.
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, we have our calendar of meetings set. On to agenda item 6 is board reports. Staff is going to give his reports.
Yes. So starting in order, if you will, at the January 23rd, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting, they approved the special exception application for Tara and Patrick Warner, of course, commercial dog kennel along Pageants Hill Road. That was approved as submitted. I don't think there were any modifications. No, there were some modifications made to the language that associated with the number of dogs to include the weeks of the age of the dogs, to clarify that that did not include puppies, I think it was. And so that was essentially approved as submitted with some minor changes to the clarification, including the ages of dogs. The second application that was on the 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting was Daniel and John Mays. That was the Twin River Campground along Gilmer's Mill Road. That was approved as recommended by the Planning Commission with the associated conditions. Then a week ago from today, which would have been the February 1st, the TCO did meet and approved the site plan, landscaping plan, et cetera, for the proposed co-op building along Maury River Road. The only contingency upon that was some additional time for staff to review the outdoor lighting plan. I had some questions on that. So that went smoothly. Of course, y'all may remember, y'all will remember that that we went through a rezoning process from a B2 to a B1, and that allowed them to move forward with the TCO site plan review.
It's a good looking building. I think it's going to be a nice addition out there. Okay, agenda item 7 is Thunderbridge Campground LLC, 445 Arnold's Valley Road, Natural Bridge Station, Virginia, 24579, has made an application for a special exception permit in order to develop and operate a cultural music center. Property is Thunderbridge Campground LLC, care of James and Karen Panabaker, 445 Arnold's Valley Road, Natural Bridge Station, Virginia, 24579. The property is located in the Agricultural Transitional AT Zoning District per Section 603B.03-13A of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. A cultural music center is a use by special exception in the AT District. The property, 1425 Arnold's Valley Road, Natural Bridge Station, Virginia, 24579, is on the east side and west side of Arnold's Valley Road, Route 759, approximately 0.41 miles south of the intersection of Arnold's Valley Road, Route 759, and Back Run, Route 781, and is further identified as tax map number 113-A-7. The property is located in the Natural Bridge Magisterial District. We have a staff and applicant presentation.
Yes, and I apologize. We essentially put the public hearing in your notes. But with that being said, Mr. and Mrs. Panabaker are here, owners of the Thunderbridge Campground LLC. That is formerly the Natural Bridge Juvenile Detention Center. That closed. It was a state agency, owned and operated by the state. That closed in the latter part of 2009, beginning of 2010. The Panabakers bought the property, purchased the property in June of 21, somewhere around that date. And so I'm going to share my screen. I don't have a formal PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to utilize at this time, but let me share my screen to essentially get the map up, get everyone oriented. So this is the highlighted in orange is the tax map number 113-A-7. You can see it's on the east and west side of the road being Arnold Valley Road. It's further identified as tax map 113-A-7, and it consists of 94.65 acres. Per section 603B03-13A of the County Land Development Regulations, cultural music center are used by special exception in the district. So you may recall after the Panabakers bought the property, they have applied for they successfully went through the zoning action for a campground associated with the property and a cultural art center. At that time, with essentially with their assistance with this process, the county decided to define both cultural art center and cultural music center as different definitions, and then provide those by use by special exception. So while we have three different special exception applications associated with the same property, this is one of three, and they're different processes. We'll open, close the public hearing. This one, of course, will be limited to the proposal of a cultural music center. What I'd like to do is have the Panabakers come up and they have some pictures to explain the process, explain the project, and then I'll go over the draft conditions, and then maybe appropriate to open the public hearing, or would be appropriate. With that, let me stop sharing this real quick. And I'm gonna pull all of these up as in a PDF for you. If y'all want to come on up. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go like this and open them all up at the same time so we don't. Is it, you, oh, all these are useful for you, correct? The ball field and obstacle course, barracks. These were all the ones associated with. Overview, as pastor, these are number 5 that I have.
That's cool.
Sample studio or this one.
Oh, yeah, that's three. This is,
I guess this one is not.
yeah, that one is.
Okay. Gym, not necessarily this one. This one is an overview.
Well, they're not-
Okay. All right. Bear with us. I'm gonna share the screen. I'm gonna pull up the last one. I think pavilion will be the last one. Okay. So then I'll start with the overview.
Good evening, I'm James Fannebecker.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for having us here. As owners of Thunderbridge, we're gradually figuring out how to use the more than 30 buildings on our campus. Unlike most of the people who come to you for zoning approvals, we don't have a blank slate to work from. I suppose we could if we remove buildings and started from scratch, but we want to preserve and renew the property's history as the best remaining civilian conservation corps camp and its subsequent use as a trend-setting training camp for delinquent youth. After we toured the property for the first time, I asked one of the friends who accompanied us what he thought we could do with it. He laughed and said it would make a great boys' home. Well, that wasn't in the cards for fairly obvious reasons. Since then, we've given many tours and received many suggestions. For example, at our first appearance before this commission, one of your members encouraged us to make the ball fields available to county youth. Our requests today represent our intent to implement some of these suggestions. We understand we may be the first to ask for 5 special exceptions for a single property. For example, let's see, you and the county commissioners already approved 2 of them, the campground and the cultural arts center. Today, we encourage you to recommend approval of 3 more: cultural music center, parks and playground, and special events. The first special exception, cultural music center, follows up our cultural arts center special exception. I'm sorry we didn't apply for both of them at the same time, as they complement each other. Music is, of course, one of the arts, and music activities fit in well with our cultural arts center endeavors. We understand that this approval relates to indoor music activities and that we will need to separately apply each time we propose to offer outside performances. Well, the first photo is an overview. Whoops, that's not the one.
Here you go. Oh, yeah.
For those of you who, has everybody been out there to the property? Okay. That's helpful. Here's an overview of the property, just showing that we have all these buildings. We're trying to figure out what to do with. Can I make it? Can you do that? Or can,
Yeah, this one, now you can just go to the next one if you want to show.
actually, let me just show you, Jim. Anyway.
Yep, I can do it.
Okay. We have a full-size gymnasium that we have begun to renovate. As I mentioned, when we came to request our cultural arts center special exception, my dream is to restore the stage in this building and provide a venue for concerts, theater, dance, art shows, and more. The Cultural Arts Center special exception that we already have allows us to offer theater, dance, art shows, and other art-related activities. A Cultural Music Center special exception would specifically allow music events. That's the gym, the outside of the gym. Let's go on to the third photo, which is barracks. The Cultural Arts Center, these are the 4 barracks. The yellow one is my wife's studio, and then the other 3, those are the 4 barracks that the CCC guys initially built to live in. The Cultural Arts Center special exception permits us to provide art studios in these barracks and other buildings. The Cultural Music Center special exception would allow us to use these same buildings for music studios. The 4th photo, interior of one of the studios. This building was used by one of our artists until she went back to art school. It would make a very nice music studio. The 5th photo then is the pavilion. Back in the woods, we have a pavilion. It serves as the basis for many campground activities, as it includes bathrooms and showers and a large interior gathering space. Our Cultural Arts Center special exception allows us to use this for our art activities. The Cultural Music Center special exception would specifically allow music activities. Is this the time? You're welcome to ask me some questions, but please recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, we'll check it out. Thank you. Guess that have anything for him before we open the public hearing? It's pretty straightforward, so. Do you have any idea how many events you would have? How often it would be open to?
Yeah, we had, well, the first question might be how many studios? I think our approval had 34 studios, right?
Yes, that's what I'm.
So I would say also, again, have 34 studios. We obviously couldn't use them. If a studio's already being used for something, couldn't use it again, but 34 possible. If all the art studios left, we could then have 34 music studios.
I guess.
So I would say 34. As far as shows per year, say in the,
Thinking in the
gym?
pavilion, yes.
I guess the maximum would be something like 52 if we did
One
one
a
every
weekend.
week.
Okay.
One of the other conditions was number of participants and vehicles. We have 162 parking spaces available on asphalt. So I would suggest, we also have plenty of space that we could put people on grass, but I would suggest just saying 162 vehicles and maybe 2 people per vehicle would be 320 people max.
So this one actually, this one, if it might be beneficial to read the conditions at this time, because what staff did is essentially mirrored the music center after the art center. And so if I may, number 1 is substantial compliance with the development plan entitled Thunder Bridge Campground dated February 1st, 2022. That's the one that's in your package. Essentially just an aerial photo showing the existing buildings, realizing that the facilities, all the facilities we're talking about are limited to the existing footprint, if you will. And that's exactly, I'll piggyback off of Mr. Panabaker's statement. That is, and I think I shared this with y'all individual. Stop share. And it is direct opposite. Usually people are working with somewhat limited limited capital to recreate this would be tens of billions of dollars, obviously. So what we're dealing with is direct opposite, where you have all these buildings that we're trying to facilitate a use versus having raw land, building buildings for that particular use.
Right.
And so what we have, so again, that's the crux of condition number 1. Number 2, Cultural Music Center limited to blank music studios, and Vivica actually went up to get the art center the conditions associated with Art Center, I'm fairly confident that is 34 studios. Well, that is 34 studios because that's the total number of studios. And then number 3, Cultural Art Center, Cultural Music Center, limited to, no, that's the same information as this. Cultural Music Center limited to blank number of events. I'm pretty sure that's what we're dealing with here. Blank number of events. I'm pretty sure that number is 36 on your music center, but we'll verify that for your art center, excuse me. Music concerts per calendar year. Number 4, event manager shall be on site during all events. Number 5, alcoholic beverages not to be self-served. And this is a little bit different. I apologize. Adequate, all those two, number 4 and number 5, are different than what was approved for the art center. Adequate off-street parking facilities and traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold Valley Roads, State Route 759. All trash taken directly to the landfill and not county collection centers or green boxes. Number 8, lighting shall be in compliance with section 1303 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. And number 9, approval contingent upon Virginia Department of Transportation, Health Department, and Building Department approvals. So the numbers we were looking for is 34 for the number of studios, if you will, and it was 36 for the number of events that were associated with the art conditions associated with the art center.
Mr.
I would-
Panagaker,
I
though,
would
has talked about
suggest
52.
52 because the art was, we were picturing, I think, outdoor activities possibly. And since we wouldn't do it in the winter, we left out those weeks. So I would suggest, since we have the gym, we might want to do it indoors for 52 weeks.
And I was thinking sometimes you might have an event on a Friday night and a Saturday night,
Right,
you
that's
know,
true,
so
too.
that would give you a little bit of flexibility there as well.
So 52.
And that's what he's asking for. I think that's fair.
Or 102, whatever.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, we will thank you. And if we have any questions, we'll call you back up. But at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone physically here who would like to speak? Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to make a comment by computer or phone?
Let me stop sharing. Bear with me here. No, ma'am.
And no one on the phone then. With no further comments, the public hearing will be closed and we'll bring it back to the board. Y'all have any questions? I was on
I mean,
the board
I
when we
think-
approved the art
I
thing.
think that's
So
a great question because that's what I was going to ask. You know, you have an event and it could be Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. Is that 2 events or is that one
I would
event?
say that's one event, wouldn't you think?
I'm sorry, what's that?
We were talking about if you had something that was on Saturday afternoon and then you had something Saturday night, is that 2 different events?
I would consider that 2 different events, yes. I mean, sort of weddings, you know, obviously weddings, you can have a Friday night reception and a Saturday night wedding or something like that. So,
Talking about on the
two
same
events?
day.
yes, I would assume that's 2 events, yes.
So do you think 52 is enough?
No,
I guess that would be my question. I mean,
Because
to
I could
me,
definitely see
handcuffing
somebody doing a
yourself
Friday and a
on-
Saturday on a weekend. You know, if you had somebody that came in that was going to play music, you might sell out 2 different, 2 different nights.
Yeah, I certainly don't see 52 as. I like a bigger number. I agree.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to say 104?
Yeah, that sounds
Just
good.
double it?
Okay.
I mean, I'd love it if that much was going on out there. So,
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
sure. Okay. Any other questions for the Panabakers or
And that's 34 studios, right?
34 music studios? Yep. That's what they have on site right now. Okay. Well, we're good to go. So if somebody would like to make a motion.
Okay. I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permitted to develop and operate a cultural music center in the agricultural transitional A-T zoning district per the land development regulations, section 603B.03-13A on property identified as tax map number 113-A-7 be approved with the following conditions. Substantial compliance with development plan titled Thunder Bridge Campground dated February 1, 2023. Number 2, Cultural Music Center limited to 34 music studios. Number 3, Cultural Music Center limited to 104 events, music concerts per calendar year. Number 4, event manager shall be on site during all events. Number 5, alcoholic beverages will not be self-served. 6, adequate off-street parking facilities. Traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold's Valley Road, Route 759. 7, all trash shall be taken directly to the landfill and not to county collection centers or county green boxes. Number 8, lighting shall be in compliance with 1303.00 of the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. Number 9, approval contingent on Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, Health Department, and Building Department approvals.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes. Okay, on to agenda item 8, Thunder Bridge Campground LLC 445 Arnold's Valley Road, National Bridge Station, Virginia 24579 has made an application for a special exception permit in order to develop and operate a special events venue. Have staff and applicant presentation again?
Yes. So obviously, as stated, the first public hearing, we have three different special exception applications in front of us for the same piece of property. Just for the record, it's the same piece of property as last, identified as 113A7, consisting of 94.65 acres per tax records per section 603B.03-20 of the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. Special events are used by special exception in the AT district. The property is located at I think the best address, several different addresses, but I think the primary one is 1455 Artist Loops, Natural Bridge. And then I'll just skip directly to the conditions. Y'all know the definition per sections 302.191B as a special event. Draft conditions that could be utilized for the special exception permit pertaining to the special events venue is: number 1, permit is limited to no more than blank special events per year. Number 2, substantial compliance with the development plan prepared by the applicant titled Thunder Bridge Map dated February 1st, 2023. Of course, that's in your package as well, and it just shows the existing footprints of the building. Number 3, events will be limited to a maximum of blank attendees with no more than blank vehicles on site for events. Event manager shall be on site during all special events. Number 4, site activities will be concluded by 10 a.m. on Monday through Thursday and 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. No special events will be held on Sundays. Number 5, adequate off-street parking facilities and traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold Valley Roads, Route 759 or Petite's Gap Road 781. A stop sign shall be installed on the property exits at the exits from Artist Loop Private Road and Thunder Bridge Lane Private Road. Number 6, alcoholic beverages will not be self-served. Number 7, all trash will be taken directly to landfill and not county collection centers or county green boxes. Number 8, any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure. Number 9, no art and or craft shows or music concerts are to be held during special events. Furthermore, no park events nor practice to be held during special events. Number 10, lighting shall be in compliance with 1303 of the County of Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. Number 11, no aerial fireworks, gun salutes shall be permitted. No open air fire shall be permitted by attendees. Last condition, number 12, approval contingent upon County Building Department, Virginia Department of Transportation, and Health Department and or Public Service Authority approvals. Per the last one, Health Department and or Public Service Authority approvals. We don't see that a lot, but this one is actually on a private well and private drain field or public water system. I think it is actually, but essentially a public water system, but privately owned. I think it's the case. With that being said, there is public water and sewer. There's public water in the area, no sewer in the area. So, just having that option there may be beneficial. With that being said, I did share all draft conditions as proposed with Mr. Panabaker today. And I think I gave Melissa even a heads up that he would like some discussion on some of these conditions, especially the Sunday operation. And of course, we'll be filling in the blanks. With that being said, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Panabaker. I'm going to close this off real quick and make sure we have the right ones. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna see what we have going for the events, pictures, 1 through 5. So I think this one's good. If you want to go ahead, I'll get all these going.
We frequently receive requests from persons seeking an affordable venue for weddings, reunions, and receptions. Patrons could use one or more of our facility as part of their special event. I'd like to show a few photos to illustrate this. The first photo shows many of the buildings in the main cluster. 4 cottages on the left. Got that? 4 cottages on the left and another in the center bottom. A commercial kitchen and dining hall in the middle. I can't point at it, can I? You see that? And the 4 barracks. Oh, okay. Okay. So this, if you see the cursor, that's the kitchen. There are 4 barracks here. These are cottages over here, 1, 2, 3. And then there's a cottage here. There's actually one here too. There's one here. And then there are others backing around. You may have noticed other cottages in the overview photo I showed with the Cultural Music Center presentation. The forested area beyond the pasture includes a couple log cabins and the pavilion I mentioned earlier. The second photo shows the gym, same photo, which could accommodate an indoor wedding, reunion, or reception. And then the third, later on, you'll see the interior of the gym for the last special exception. Here's the interior of the kitchen. We have an extensive commercial kitchen, fully appointed with ovens, griddle tops, mixers, a steamer, refrigerators, a walk-in freezer, and a walk-in refrigerator, and other equipment. The health department has been out. We haven't actually had it inspected, but they said it looks good, except for a bit of work on the fire suppression equipment, $200 investment, which we will make. I guess I didn't mention, we have put in 4 septic systems so far. And one of the septic systems serves this and some of the other buildings. And right now we have septic to be able to serve 30 people for 3 meals a day using the kitchen. The 4th photo is the dining hall interior, which is right next to the kitchen. This is the dining hall that served the boys and the staff when it was open as a juvenile detention center. Yes, the last one is a bridge cabin. I'm showing that in part just to remind, well, some of you weren't here back when we did this a year and a half ago. You may recall from last year's presentation that we took our name, Thunder Bridge, with capital B, capital R, Thunder Bridge, in part from the name the boys gave this cabin. They built this cabin as part of one of their projects because they had masonry classes and construction classes, and this was one of their projects. They in turn named the bridge cabin after the newsletter published by the CCC guys in the 1930s. It was called the Bridge, capital B, capital R, Bridge. The capital BR stands for Blue Ridge. And our name also incorporates Thunder Ridge, which is the name of the mountain that stands above, behind the property. Again, I'd like to ask that you recommend approval of this special exception to the Board of Supervisors. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them. Thank you.
I would say the first question is, permit is limited to no more than, how many special events would you foresee there?
Well, I was thinking 52. I don't think we would want to handle more than one a week.
I mean, I know, just went through planning a wedding and they were having weddings on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. So, that's why I asked the question. So, because there is a short, there's a period of time you can do weddings, it's not going to be all year round, but probably. So,
What were you thinking, Chris?
It has varied. I mean, it's varied per property, I think. So I would lean on the planning commission. I would leave, as far as the discussion with the planning makers, obviously what y'all think is appropriate and set the number.
and as far as the number of attendees, we talked about 162 parking spaces. So are we back to that same 320?
Yes. Makes
Um,
sense.
and then no more than
Cars
160,
are bad.
no more
Pardon?
than 100.
Guess you could get more cars.
We could, yes.
But you're going to have some for the people that are working the event, if you have that. But so no more than 162 cars. Is that what we're going with there?
Yes.
Vehicles on site,
162.
162.
Then-
I would just suggest rounding up to 165.
Okay.
I mean, it just
Sure.
sounds better to me.
How about
Okay.
175?
175 sounds even better.
Well, I wonder if we do need to add in, because I know we've had some where we've said there can be 10 vehicles for the people that are working, whether it's caterers or things like that.
I think we got into that with that last campground, but I'm uncertain we've gotten into that level of detail for a wedding.
Right. Well, so that's what we're talking about. Do we want to up it so that we can keep that in mind? I don't know. Are you okay with 165? And 320 attendees? That would not count the people that would be working the event, the caterers, the wedding planner, those people, right? So you also had some things you wanted to discuss on this list that you maybe wanted
Well,
to tweak.
Number 4 the suggestion for number 4 was no special events will be held on Sundays. I don't know why not on our property. We're pretty far from
I wondered that too. I
neighbors.
didn't know if there was a reason for that, Chris.
Just what we've done historically the last couple.
It's not a
Yeah, I
blue,
would
we don't have a
recommend
blue law anymore, right?
I think we could just take that out. I mean, I could
Yeah.
definitely see having something going, you could think about family reunions and things like that often.
Yeah,
or
11
on
PM on
Sundays.
Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
So site activities concluded by 10 on Monday through Thursday and 11 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, Sunday, I think it needs to be back to the 10, right?
It's up to y'all, but the way we've done it in the past is all site activities will be concluded by 10 PM Sunday through Thursdays and 11 PM on Fridays and Saturdays.
Because Sunday's a school night, whatever. So yeah, Sundays through Thursday. Okay. Any others on there that you wanted to discuss that tweak?
Well, number 9,
I actually have that marked on my paper here.
I would suggest that we be given the discretion and if we're already bound by the number of vehicles and the number of participants, if we wanted to have a wedding, if somebody wanted to have a wedding at the Bridge Cabin, say, and we were going to have a music concert in the gym, that's really no reason. I don't think that we couldn't do them both, as long as we,
So that's why we do it as each individual conditions associated with each one. We obviously can't go back with the art center nor the campground, but moving forward, the 320 attendees and 165 cars would be for the special exception for the special events.
Right.
I see. So what you could do is make this condition tied to the vehicles, the total vehicles and total participants. If you
On
want.
the site, but we're saying
Full-
just associated with this. So what we were saying is you could have 320 people, 165 cars for a wedding, but if the next weekend somebody's having a soccer game on a Sunday and somebody's having a wedding with 100 people, why couldn't you do those at the same time?
One more time.
So one weekend you might have a huge wedding, and you've got
Yes.
320 people. The next weekend you may have 100 people in a wedding and somebody might want to be doing a soccer game or whatever. Why could those things not be done at the same time?
Yeah, you could, you would just have to modify number 9.
Right. I think that's what we're
I
looking
guess
at is
we're just
let
asking for
them,
clarity. Is there any reason?
is there any reason they shouldn't be able to do a soccer game and a wedding at the same time?
Well, what we had talked about on site is if you do it as a wedding event venue, you would just essentially rent the facility as a wedding event venue. And I think there'll be some overlap there as far as patrons, there could be some conflict, there may not be.
How about music venue? You know what I'm saying? It's different. A wedding is different than a music. So I understand what you're saying. If you have a music concert going on inside and you have a soccer practice going on outside, why would it matter if they're going on at the same time?
There's no prohibition on that one.
Okay.
I mean,
I think personally, I mean, as staff, if you will, I think some of the uses work well. I mean, the art center and the music center, they could be going on concurrently. I think the camping and the wedding event venue, I think the camping and the softball fields, I think the camping and the wedding event venue could very well, but I think you are going to get in contact. And this would be unique to art shows and music concerts. So that's not to say that the artist going to be working in their studios or the musicians going to
It's a
be,
show.
it's actually a show. So if y'all would like to prohibit the ability for the Panabakers or the future owners, obviously, to have a art show, a wedding event venue, and a music concert concurrently.
As
And
long as they don't go over that number of people and numbers of cars.
that it,
Those numbers aren't,
Getting gray here.
those numbers aren't in the other conditions.
it seems like,
They have no numbers in the other conditions. You can have as many as you want.
yes, that's what y'all
For a
approved on the
music
art
center,
center. That's
you
what we
have 104 events per year and so many studios.
But how many people and cars?
It's not designated.
We just did that one. So we've already approved the art center.
Right.
That had no number
And we
of
had no
cars.
numbers of vehicles or
And
anything.
so again, staff mirrored the music center that we just did, and we had no discussion on number of cars
Okay.
associated with the music.
Why don't you consider doing it in reverse then? By saying, putting in number 9, something like, if art and or craft shows or music concerts are held at the same time as a special event, compliance with number 3 is required. Something like that.
do we really have to say that? I mean, from a practical standpoint, why would they have things clashing?
And that's right too. You could eliminate 9
Right. I mean,
altogether.
you may have a bride who's like, I don't want soccer going on, or whatever
Well,
the thing.
the kicker is that answer Mr. Kramer's question directly is we write these not for the Panabakers, for future landowners. And-
future.
And we ran into this very recently where the comfort level with the applicant at the time was very high, and we
don't
had
know.
this discussion. Well, then
Right.
guess what? We have another landowner currently, and we're having problems. Let's put it that way. So
Right.
if y'all would like to have a total on site, that certainly would be appropriate. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can set conditions. Well, no, could we incorporate the number of cars associated with a music center into this condition?
I think what you can do is set total numbers in this condition if multiple events are occurring on the property.
I got you.
That's
I'm
what I
following
was
you.
just thinking. too.
Includes special events.
Yeah, let them figure out what events they want to have going on, but the total people we want on the property is 320 and the total cars is 165, period.
All right, I'm working. I see what we're saying. So give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Like,
Any others that we need to take a deeper dive on?
I think we're okay with the rest. All
How
right.
about
While he's doing that, just for my own clarification, the music center, those are the barracks, correct? You showed the pictures of your wife has a studio.
The music center would include 34 studios, which means really it's based on 17 buildings, a maximum of 2 studios per building.
But now we're talking about. So are they universal? I mean, would you see yourself doing like art in those studios as well?
It would
One or
be,
the other.
it would be, well,
Well, I guess
I'm
just want
a musician
clarification
and
from
an
our-
artist. So my art studio, yes, could be both a music and an art. I happen to have a keyboard in my art studio. But in most cases, we would rent to an artist or a musician in a studio.
Just want
But
clarification.
where the music is happening, as far as if you had a music event, would be in that,
Usually in the gym or in the pavilion.
Which would be the same for special events.
yes.
Yes.
So are we gonna say that art and or craft shows or music concert may be held
I think what I
concurrently with
have,
a special event as long as there are not more than 320 people or 165 cars?
I think what I have, and we could do it any way y'all would prefer, if a art and or craft show or music concerts are being held during special events, total number of attendees and vehicles not to exceed, essentially referring back to number 3. Because I mean, in reality, 200-person wedding is extremely large for this area. So giving them the flexibility of 320 attendees for a wedding event venue,
Right.
it'd be interesting to see a 300-person wedding in the area, put it that way.
Yes, yeah, okay. So,
Hopefully you achieve that, right?
right.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, so I think that's it. That's all we have for you, and
Okay.
we will
Thank you.
open up. Are we ready now for the public hearing?
Yes. And to clarify, this Hannah signed up for all 3 public hearings, but you don't have to sign up.
Right. Okay, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here physically to speak?
Not seeing any. I will check the
Zoom and phone.
Zoom. We do not have anyone signed up or raising their hand to speak.
Okay. With no further comments, public hearing will be closed and we'll bring it back to the board. And are there any other questions? I think we're pretty clear on this. So do you want to read this?
I can.
Thank you.
I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permit to develop and operate a special event venue in agricultural transitional A-T zoning district per LDR section 603B.03-20 on property identified as tax map number 113-A-7 be approved with the following conditions. Permit is limited to no more than 52 special events per year. Substantial compliance with the development plan prepared by the applicant titled Thunderbridge Map dated February 1st, 2023. Events will be limited to a maximum of 320 attendees with no more than 165 vehicles on site for events. Event manager shall be on site during all special events. All site activities will be concluded by 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursdays and by 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Adequate off-street parking facilities and traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold Valley Road, Route 759 or Petites,
Yes, sir.
all right, Petites Gap Road, Route 781. A stop sign shall be installed by the property at the exits of Artist Loop, which is a private road, and Thunderbridge Lane, private road. Alcoholic beverages will not be self-served. Number 7, all trash shall be taken directly to the landfill and not to county collection centers or county green boxes. Any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure. If art and craft shows or music concerts are to be held during special events. Furthermore,
More,
okay,
I think then you go total number of vehicles.
yeah, so total number of vehicles Total number of attendees is a maximum of 320 with no more than 165 vehicles on site for all events. Lighting shall be in compliance with 1303.00 of the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. Number 11, no aerial fireworks or gun salutes shall be permitted. No open air fire shall be permitted by attendees. Approval contingent on County Building Development, Virginia Department of Transportation, Health Department, and or Public Service Authority approvals.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes for the special exception. So we are on to number 9, Thunderbridge Campground LLC, 445 Arnold's Valley Road, Nashville Bridge Station, Virginia, 24579, has made an application for a special exception permit in order to develop and operate a park venues for sports activities. At this time, I'm going to have the staff and the applicant do their presentations.
All right. This is the same property, of course, Thunderbridge Campground LLC. The property is owned by James and Karen Panbaker, or it's rather Thunderbridge Campground LLC. This is a application for a park per section 603.B.03-18 of the county land development regulations. Parks and playgrounds are used by special exception in the agricultural zoning district. Per section 302.152 of the regulations, parks and playgrounds are defined as land publicly or privately owned devoted to recreational pursuits, usually in an open area reserved for outdoor activities such as play, hiking, exercise, or competitive sports, not requiring structures for habitation. With that being said, I'm going to share my screen real quick for the record. Obviously, we're dealing with the same property, 113-A-7, 94.95 acres. As far as the draft conditions, I think it'd be appropriate to go ahead and read the draft conditions. Number 1, substantial compliance with the development plan prepared by the applicant titled Thunderbridge Campground dated February 1st, 2023, showing the existing footprint. Number 2, permit is limited no more than blank sporting events per calendar year, excluding practices. And these obviously are for discussion purposes and could be included. Number 3, events will be limited to a maximum of blank attendees with no more than blank vehicles on site for events. Event manager shall be on site during all activities. No alcoholic beverages prohibited. Alcoholic beverages are prohibited. Number 5, all site activities will be concluded by blank on Sunday through Thursday and blank PM on Fridays and Saturdays. Adequate off-street parking facilities and traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold Valley Road 759 or Petites Gap Road 781. A stop sign shall be installed on the property at exits from Artis's Loop private road and Thunderbridge Lane private road. All trash shall be taken directly to the landfill and not county collection centers or county green boxes. Lighting shall be in compliance with 1303 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. No special events art and or craft shows or music concerts are to be held while the park is in use. Number 11, a loudspeaker system will be installed for emergency purposes only, and no play-by-play action will be announced. Number 12, approval contingent upon County Building Department, Virginia Department of Transportation, Health Department, and or Public Service Authority. With this being, and I don't think anyone was on the Planning Commission when the Mountain View ball field came through. But with that being said, some of these are obviously leftover, regurgitated, if you will, from the other conditions, but some of these are directly from that previous ball field application, if you will. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the Panabakers to review additional details of the property, and I do have your pictures pulled up.
Several folks have inquired about using our pasture ball fields, obstacle course, and gymnasium. For example, a girls softball league asked about the ball fields for outdoor practices and games and the gym for indoor winter practice. The girls basketball league also expressed interest in the gym. Other folks have suggested making the gym available for basketball, pickleball, tennis, and bingo. I guess I should mention, I don't think you mentioned this, Chris. The parks and playground special exception would include both the ball fields and the gym. They're both, it says generally outdoors. It
Yeah.
doesn't limit it to being
We had
outdoors.
in-house discussion on that as well.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. Oh, so in support, I wanted to show a few photos. The first one is the pasture. An 8-acre pasture. And you'll go on to the next. The next photo shows the ball fields more clearly. There's this larger ball field in front in the foreground, and then behind it, you can see vaguely the second ball field. And then beyond that, the obstacle course. Which some people have called a world-class obstacle course. The fourth photo is the gym entrance again. And the last photo shows the interior of the gym. So it's a full-size gym. What we've been doing in the last week was lots of those. You can see some of the vinyl tiles are missing. We've been removing those vinyl tiles, the three of us together, getting lots of exercise. Been very hungry this week. So again, I'd like to ask you to please recommend approval of this special exception. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them. Also, I wanted to talk about a couple of the conditions proposed.
Right, that's first question for me, and also obviously Mr. Sladen input on the number of sporting events. I'm thinking about, for example, I could see this, have a volleyball tournament or have, some kind of a tournament where you've got a number of games and whatever. I'm assuming we still would say 320 people, 160, because it's based on how many parking spaces we have. Does that sound right?
Are you on number, are we talking about number
Well,
two
kind of
and
just
number
talking,
three? or-
yes, 2 and 3. I'm thinking about how many sporting events, because technically you could have somebody playing pickleball or whatever in the gym. You could also have things going on outside.
Yeah, I was
Um,
wondering what to ask for, maybe 500. I don't know. It's hard to,
Right.
you could have it every day of the year. See,
Well, and my question was, okay, so if you're having a volleyball tournament, that's lots of games,
I mean, essentially you could be having a volleyball, tournament and maybe it's spring of the year and a baseball.
Yeah.
Softball.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
Yes.
I think that the key, the more important thing is the 320 attendees, and 165 vehicles. I think we need to,
maybe that would be sufficient without specifying how many events.
I don't know how you specify.
I don't know how you specify. I don't know how you count them.
Yeah, I think the only thing, maybe we can guesstimate, but I mean, I think the more important thing is the attendees and the vehicles.
Well, I think about Rara when they have a football night, there's usually a couple of games at least, in a row. They'll be out there and they're playing on a couple of different fields and maybe they have 2 or 3 games a night. So that's my concern is how do you put a number? How do we decide? And is there a reason to put a number as long as we know there's only X number of attendees at any given time?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, if y'all are comfortable with, obviously with unlimited sporting events on the property. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be a huge thing. There's just such a need, having been a coach, lacrosse fields, and I mean, there's just never enough.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm on the railroad board, so I can tell you there is a need for space.
I think I tend to not want to limit those sporting events as long as we're limiting the number of cars and people at any given time.
We just eliminate 2
Um,
and then 320 attendees.
yeah, I think we have to have some kind of limit there just because based on the number of cars, right?
Right.
Of course, I guess you could,
165 cars.
Chris,
is-
are
it
you
is
good with
typical.
number two? Not,
It was typical when we went to
Yes.
soccer
Put four
games,
kids in the car.
that you would have, yeah, four kids in a car and you would also park on the grass. So perhaps you would want to expand that number.
if that was the case, we'd have to go back and expand everything else, right?
No, not necessarily, because this is just talking about sporting events, not talking about a special.
But, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this is sort of technical. How would you enforce that? And you look
Enforce.
at it and you're seeing all these cars out there and, you know, people are out at the park, people at the gym, people at the art.
Well, one way is that VDOT will get interested at some, if we're going above 320 VDOT, we would feel obligated to work out. I mean, we've talked to VDOT about that, and at that point, they would work out with
Require
us.
a different
having-
entrance and all that.
having
You'd have
people
to have a
that
small.
Man the entrances and stuff.
Right.
I'm pretty comfortable with 165, I think.
Yeah, I think we leave it at that. And then as interest, you could always come back and
Sure.
ask for an adjustment rate on that. Because, our hope is this thing just blows up and it, becomes very successful. And we have to see you back here again to expand it, but maybe we start with this
Okay.
just to get it through.
That's fine.
Okay. And as far as on-site activities, 9 o'clock during the week and 10 o'clock on the weekends, or you want to stick with the 10 and the 11?
Outside.
Well, some of it's outside. They have gyms inside too. I mean, we used to practice volleyball till 10
We don't
o'clock at
have
night,
light
adult league
at this-
volleyball anyway.
At this point, we don't have lighting, so, but we would have the gym open possibly in the evenings.
So 10 Sunday through Thursday, like we had on the previous one.
I think that's
10 o'clock.
personally fair.
Yep. Okay, 10 Sunday through Thursday and 11 on Friday and Saturday. Can imagine a sporting event going to 11, but we did have, a lot of times adult volleyball would be after, so could possibly happen. And then are we okay with taking out number 10 completely, no special, because we just beat this one on the last one. We don't care if you're having special events along with sporting events, as long as you're not going over top of that number.
And the artists would like to be able to have an art show when all those people are coming.
Right.
You would want to mirror your last one, I assume. Your last
Yes.
condition?
Yes. Just like the last one, sure. So special events, art and craft shows, or music concerts.
But no, this would be if a park use, it'd essentially be the exact same thing. If a park use are being held during, let me think about this. So the last one was if a art show and or craft show or music concerts are being held during special events, the total number of attendees. So along that line of thought, if
Can
the
you just
park
say
is in
may be
use.
held? As long as. So my question is, so couldn't you just say special events, art and or craft shows or music concerts may be held while park is in use as long as there are no more than 165 cars or 320 people?
Yes.
Okay.
Was number 11, was that intended to require us to install a loudspeaker system? Or if we have a loudspeaker system, only to use it?
The way it reads now, it would have to be some sort of loudspeaker installed
will
for
be
emergency purposes.
We do have a siren
So such as like
that
lightning. in the
can scare the
area.
whole neighborhood.
You get everybody's attention
Right.
and
We used to use just the horn, but that's just.
Yeah, that's what we would use.
That's not that's not a loudspeaker system. That's a bullhorn, basically.
that would be the merits of a loudspeaker system. You're talking about just like a regular
Yeah, we
police
used that
officer.
when we were doing
Yeah.
stuff out
Yeah,
there. We just had that.
That would be that would
I
be
mean, I don't want them
considered
to
the same.
be required to put in a loudspeaker system just in case, because you certainly could have those. We could say, we want you to have a,
It is a
What is it called?
loudspeaker,
yeah, it is.
the
It is a
bullhorn.
loudspeaker, the bullhorn.
That would be acceptable.
Okay, it's just, it wouldn't be installed. The only question.
Utilized.
Yes. Better.
I like the,
A
I like with,
loudspeaker
I like the
system
word
will be
used.
utilized for emergency purposes only. you had to let people know you got to get out of here real quick because there's lightning in the area or whatever.
And no play-by-play action will be announced. You know, just knowing my son playing baseball growing up, sometimes they like to, I just want to make sure this doesn't interfere, but sometimes like the kids playing baseball, they have their own walkout music, and that wouldn't, that would be okay in this, right? Under the no play-by-play action.
Yes.
Okay.
Why we care if there's play-by-play.
I don't either. That's
I
what
mean,
I guess.
I'm thinking about what they're doing down there in Covington. I mean, that's become huge for
Yeah.
softball. They've got that thing, they've got 4 fields and
Mhm.
they're out there announcing who's coming up and who's, you know.
I don't
doing
understand
that.
why that,
I mean, I don't know why that's a,
if you,
If y'all disagree with it, this was just utilized on another
Yeah.
condition associated with,
I'm good with taking
I think
that
we
out.
should take it out
Yeah.
because I think that could be a really important
out.
thing. Take out the thing that says no play-by-play action will be announced because we don't care.
Yeah,
Kids certainly like hearing their name.
correct.
And another home run. Okay. I think
Thank
that's
you.
all we've got for you right now. So we will open the public hearing at this time. Have anyone? Okay. Do we have anybody?
You have any
Do
concerns?
we have anybody up here? I mean, do we even have anybody?
no ma'am.
Okay. So no telephone, no Zoom. So with no further comments, the public hearing is closed and we'll bring it back to the board. Have any other questions or concerns, things we need to chat about on this? Are we all pretty comfortable with what we've got? Okay, there you go.
Okay.
You're up.
I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permit to develop and operate a park in the agricultural transitional A-T zoning district per LDR section 603B.03-1A on property identified as tax map number 113-A-7 be approved with the following conditions. Substantial compliance with the development plan prepared by applicant titled Thunder Bridge Campground dated February 1, 2023. Number 2, events will be limited to a maximum of 320 attendees with no more than 165 vehicles on site for events. Event manager shall be on duty during all activities. Number 3, alcoholic beverages are prohibited. 4, all site activities will be concluded by 10 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and by 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. 5, adequate off-street parking facilities and traffic controls will be provided. No parking along Arnold's Valley Road, Route 759, or Petite Gap Road, Route 781. 6, a stop sign shall be installed on the property at the exits from Artist Loop private road and Thunder Bridge Lane private road. 7, all trash should be taken directly to the landfill and not to county collection centers or county green boxes. 8, lighting shall be in compliance with 1303.00 of the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. 9, special events, art and/or craft shows or music concerts can be held while the park is in use as long as there are no more than a maximum of 320 attendees with no more than 165 vehicles on site for events. Number 10, a loudspeaker system will be utilized for emergency purposes only. 11, approval contingent on county building department, Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, and Health Department and/or Public Service Authority approvals.
Do we have a motion?
Before we got a second, I have a point of clarification. Number 11, a loudspeaker system will be utilized for emergency purposes. I think it's a period.
Take out the only. Yeah.
Yes, if that was the intent
Okay.
of the planning commission.
So we have a motion
Make a motion.
and second. All in favor? Aye. And the motion passes. There you go. Thank you for your vision on this, Mr. Panabaker, Mrs. Panabaker. We look forward to great things out there. Yeah, that's right. Tay Swift, get her out there. So we are on to agenda item number 10, which is the comprehensive plan update discussion. Vivica?
Okay, so before we jump into this month's government chapter, just a quick point of clarification. Last month, we had talked about the population chapter, and one of the concerns that was brought up was that there were no goals for the population chapter. So I did research the surrounding localities comp plans that we had looked at previously, and I just wanted to bring up that specifically Augusta County, their comp plan includes strategies for growth, but they do not contain any formal goals specific to population. Harrisonburg does not have any goals with the population chapter. Amherst County does not have any goals for the population chapter. And then Stanton, there are no goals specific to the population chapter, but there's one land use goal that pertains to the population, which is to encourage a demographically diverse and growing population. But again, that is under the land use chapter, not the population chapter. So I just wanted to point that out. Again, it is completely up to you guys if you want to include goals for that chapter, but based on our conversation last time, a lot of the ideas for goals for the population chapter would actually fit under other chapters that are coming up. So I just wanted to point that out before we continued on.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you looking into that because that gives us some clarification there.
Okay, so for this month, the government chapter is pretty similar to the population chapter, where much of the information needed to be updated to have the current structure and layout of the government. So you'll see we have the structure of not only Rockbridge County, but also Lexington and Buena Vista included, mostly just for comparison. And then it does also cover briefly Glasgow and Goshen, just for information. And then once we get past the structure of the government, the rest of it is dedicated to Rockbridge County specifically. So you'll see that we have revenue sources, and that is then broken down throughout the chapter, essentially. So you'll see major sources, including real estate taxes, property taxes in general. And then all revenue sources are charges for services, other local taxes, and all property taxes. And then from there, we get into the specific departments, including water and sewer fees, maintenance and operation expenditures. We have the trends in general government administration expenditures by activity. And then we get into the separate courts and sheriff's office, public safety, public works, health and welfare, education, parks and rec, and then community development. And then the last 2 pages are dedicated to the debt of the county and its general bonds that are used to subsidize activities. So do you have any questions on the information that is presented within the chapter itself?
Yeah. It is a lot of info. One of the things I was noticing about was, looking at the federal money that came in versus, to 2020. I'm assuming a lot of that was probably related to COVID relief money.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't specify exactly, but you can't. But
Wondered if there was anything in there that kind of explained, because that's a pretty big difference.
it is.
It's a lot of money.
It did not. It does not specifically say this is directly taken from the local governments have to submit all this information to the Commonwealth, and then a report is generated from that information. So this is directly from that report from the Commonwealth.
It'd just be interesting to know where it came from, because
Absolutely.
what's going to happen, what's the next 5 years going to look like? We're not going to be able to count on that money that we're getting for expanding broadband, for example, and things like that. So I like the way the charts I really like. I'm more into that.
Yeah.
You can get a lot out of that. So I think it looks good.
Okay.
Great work.
And then, so just real fast on the goals, I included what was previously in the chapter. And so there's only one goal, which is to serve the people. And obviously that's a very open-ended goal, so it could be continued. And then under that, we have an objective of provide government services in an efficient manner with minimum financial burden to county taxpayers. And then coordinate planning goals with Lexington and Buena Vista. So just wondering if you have any suggestions for either additional goals, additional objectives, or changes that you feel need to be made.
I always like measurable goals. I mean, one of my things is we keep saying, and I've been doing this for a while now, we keep saying we're going to work with the other localities, but we don't ever put anything into place to say we're going to have 2 meetings a year that are joint meetings or something like that. I mean, I'd like to see if we could have something more measurable to say, yeah, we've done it. We've had those 2 meetings or whatever that number is, even if it's 1 meeting a year. I think maybe in the whole time I've been doing it, maybe we've had 1 joint meeting with Lexington Planning Commission.
Possibly. I'm not certain.
But I mean, I just wondered if that would make sense to make a more defined goal, which is to try to meet with them more regularly and not just say some broad, vague thing, but to say once a year or once every 18 months or twice, whatever it is.
Okay.
That's a good point, because we're more likely to do it.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like anything. If you have a goal and it's stated out exactly what you're going to do, you can try and try, but if it's not something that says, oh yeah, we've got to make that happen, we won't. And everybody's busy. I get that. So. The other thing I see, again, very broad, encourage citizen participation. Do any of these other, I guess, localities have more ideas about how to encourage? How are we going to do that? Or, are we going to, take out ads in the paper? Are we going to, try to get somebody to come and interview us? You know what I mean? Again, just it's one thing to say we're going to encourage it, but how do we encourage it?
I have not run into anything more specific than that in my research, but we can certainly add that in or remove this verbiage and add in something more specific.
And I guess I'm just used to doing more strat planning. You're doing strategic planning. They're very specific goals to do that. This just seems very vague and open-ended. So maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. I'm just bringing that up from
That was
my strategic planning
the
days.
discussions of the small counties about how to get participation. And nobody had a good idea other than giving away free tax money or something like that.
Right.
I think one thing would be the means of communication of information to citizens. We're working on social media policy that'll probably go before the board at the next meeting. And newspapers and radio is kind of outdated.
Well, and I think the encouraged
So-
citizen participation is exactly what we're talking. We kind of are doing that because we're offering you to get on social media and follow along with us. Go look at our YouTube, call into us. So
I think the way the planning commission has started holding its meetings is another means of providing encouragement to citizens to participate. It makes it easier.
A lot easier getting in your car and driving here from, we have a big county, you know, something might take you 30, 40 minutes to get here. So.
I
Okay,
think that would be one thing, because I think it was Rockingham County. They went to, like, where they had the voting. the
Polling
precincts, and try and get small groups together rather than a couple of big meetings.
right. Go to them rather than them having to come to us for a big meeting. So.
I'm sure the library, if we ever.
Well,
get
we've
involved.
talked about, I know, and I'm trying to think if it was a solar or something where we had meetings and we talked about that there were citizens out there who had a lot of knowledge and we were going to invite them to kind of be in a work group and things like that. And we never did. So I think we got to follow through on some of that. Because there's a lot of people here that have a lot of knowledge because of the colleges and people who've moved back here that have worked in government and things like that. But, you know, we need to reach out for those.
Thank you for the suggestions.
So we are on to the zoning text amendment discussion, multifamily dwellings in the general business B1 zoning district.
Yes, at the last
We
meeting,
do have the-
oh, yes, we do have the committee first. We have, the next item on the agenda is and I apologize if we missed it on your notes page there. Number 10, comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, number 11, consideration of a community development committee.
Oh, yeah, no, I have 11 as the zoning text amendment.
So with that being said, and I apologize because I should have reported this on the 23rd, the Board of Supervisors also appointed 2 members of the Board of Supervisors to what we're calling a community development committee. It sort of started off as a comprehensive plan committee, but I would essentially, the staff would like this to be a long-standing committee, and by the forefront of it will be to get guidance, additional information on the comprehensive plan, but long-term, of course, talking about a lot of land use, zoning text amendment updates, essentially keeping everyone in the loop, liaison between, you know, the committees that can report back type thing. With that being said, the idea of this agenda item is for the planning commission to appoint 2 members of the planning commission to be on a community development committee. And I think this will be an annual committee, if you will. And so we would do it every calendar year, potentially change up the membership, or if someone wants to come up, that's appropriate as well. But it would be at minimum a once a month meeting. I'm thinking during normal business hours, maybe start at 4, maybe end at 4, 5 or 6 o'clock, something like that. But generally speaking, during normal business hours, I would say at minimum once a month. And I wouldn't anticipate much more than twice a month. But I would say to start with a minimum once a month. So what we're looking for, what staff is looking for, is essentially 2 volunteers on the planning commission level that would like to join the community development committee for the purposes of, conversing with the 2 members of the Board of Supervisors and reviewing comp plans, zoning text amendments, essentially applications today type thing.
Okay. Do you have anybody that wants to volunteer to do that?
I look around, the 5 of us, and there's one of us that every day is Saturday.
Yeah, lucky you.
And I already go to the Board of Supervisors meetings, so unless there's 2 other people that would like to do it, I volunteer to be one.
That would be great. You want to be the other person? I'm doing TCO already in this, so I don't really want to sign up for another.
Sure. I can do it. Appreciate both of y'all. Really do. Yes. And Melissa, as always, appreciate your
I
time.
nominated David,
Right. If you're not here, you get nominated, right? Yeah.
vice chair, and guess what?
Yeah, you're vice chair and, okay, very good. So now we're ready for the zoning text amendment.
Yes. So at last month's meeting, we discussed allowing more flexibility on apartments, condominiums, apartments, multifamilies in the business zone. Currently, as you know, by special exception, we limited to upper story apartments / condominiums. The bird in hand, if you will, is a 3-story building. What's propelling this forward is a landowner's approach to county inquiring about converting the bottom level, a basement level, I should say, subgrade level, into apartments. That particular building is somewhat unusual, that they do have a basement floor with a walkout basement, a ground level, if you will, first level, ground level, and a third a second level on top. So total of 3 stories, but the ground level is business. So what Mr. Whitmore has done is compiled information from essentially most of the surrounding localities, you know, Augusta County, Amherst County, Bath County, Botetourt, and Albemarle. And what we have found is there's some language, you know, some common language on percentages, and there's some common languages, some language about the first floor being the business and the percentage of that. So the purpose of this, the ultimate goal here, and may take, you know, 10 minutes of conversation. Hopefully, I know it's late in an hour, but our ultimate goal is to sort of draft language, obtain language from y'all as far as what y'all would like to see, or how y'all would like to proceed forward with the additional flexibility in the business zone for other than upper story apartments.
So what, did this get taken in front of the board?
No, so the process for a zoning text amendment, it could be initiated by a resolution with intent, I think it says, by the Board of Supervisors or by a motion of the Planning Commission. So this is the exact same process, a special exception or something like that. Y'all would make a recommendation to the board for the proposed language of the zoning text amendment. In order for it to go in the board, y'all have to have a bona fide public hearing, which we could schedule next month if we develop some language. I've obviously talked to the Board of Supervisors, got the exact same startup email as y'all did. I've talked to at least the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and he was supportive within perimeters. And I think I've probably talking to at least 1 or 2 other ones. So there's been no red flags thrown up by the supervisors to date. Let's put it that way.
So I guess for me, and I'm thinking about what the city has in place too, because I've dealt with that a little bit. I'm reading something that talks about at least 90% of the ground floor is to be devoted to business use. I think when they're talking about ground floor, they're talking about whatever is what you can see from the street, the main street, right?
I would agree. And that's Augusta County, to be clear, but yes,
Right.
yes.
I mean, can we just make it that let you as the have administrative approval for anything that would be below? Because I know the building you're talking about, but I'm also thinking there are other buildings that could be a 3-story building and one of the stories could be below. I'm thinking about 16 North Main, for example, has apartments around back below. So they're not on the street. They're not visible from the street. I think that's what all we care about, is that you have a business on that first floor facing the street. I don't even care if there's apartments to the rear of that. But could we just make it so that you can have administrative approval for having dwelling units in the basement based on?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly could talk
I'm
about
looking
it.
at one of these things talks about that.
Yeah, no, the one you're referring to is Augusta County. It says number 1, at least 90% of the ground floor area is devoted to a business use. And number 2, no more than 1 floor of apartments may be added above a business. Additional floors may be permitted only by special exception approved by the Board of Supervisors. So to back up a little bit, right now, all multifamily dwellings are used by special exception in the business zone. We only allow for upper story apartments by special exception. So if you wanted to even essentially switch it out and say that, I really never thought about that because I didn't know it was going to come up. But with that being said,
There was definitely another one that talked about specific, and it had something specific about administrative. I mean, it actually had those words in it. So let me look back through there a second. I really like this one that says, if the building fronts on a public street, the residential portion of the first floor shall be required to be shielded by office or retail space or a lobby that maintains a commercial appearance.
I don't know what that necessarily means. I mean, that there's a lot of interpretation.
just
There's a lot of
means-
ambiguity there of commercial appearance.
Right, rather than actual commercial space.
Yeah. And as far as shielded, I was just uncertain, and I did not have a top opportunity to talk to my co-partner there or the director there to get additional information, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what a shielded by office or retail space or a lobby that maintains a commercial appearance, because you're not going to see a lobby,
Right.
obviously.
Here's what I read, the thing about apartments not on the ground floor
Which one are
Apartments
you
not-
on? I'm
I'm
sorry.
on H under Augusta County. It says apartments not on the ground floor may be permitted by administrative permit provided, and then it has those things, but that's where the administrative permit provided these things are in place. 90% of the ground floor is devoted to business. No more than one floor of apartments is above the business off-street party, so they gave some things. I was just thinking that that might be a way to let you just have that administrative approval.
Are y'all interested in allowing by right apartments in a business zone? Because that's what a
I don't see
administrative
the,
approval.
I don't know what-
and I can tell you 90% of the ground floor devoted to business is not gonna take care of the issue at hand of what, based off that email I read.
No, this one is, no, it's not.
Well, I would consider this particular one, I would consider the ground floor being in this case, the ground floor is 100% business. It could be, when I think of ground floor, I don't think of a basement, nor do I think of
Just
the
What
ground
faces-
level.
It's what faces the street.
Yes.
Because this building in particular, you're going to go around back, but that, what would now be the ground floor is really the basement because the floor is up here. That faces the main street.
Bear with me here.
I mean, to me, I think having apartments in a business zone, I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to go to in this world, right? Is
Well, I
mixed
mean, it's
use
just-
stuff where you've got businesses on the first floor and then retail, and then living space above and below because we're trying to.
So the ground floor is a floor of a building that we don't define it obviously in the land development regulation. So we have to go to the dictionary. It's a floor of a building at ground level. So it actually could be, construed as both. It's like, well, ground level in the back
Go
is the
around
ground
back
level,
where
the
the
ground
parking
level.
is,
Yeah.
that's ground level as well.
Yes.
But
And,
to me, I
it's on
think
a hill.
we'd need to clarify that it would be what was facing the public road. Whatever is the ground floor that's facing the public road. I think to get to where we're trying to get tonight is, yes, I'm interested in allowing people to have apartments in a business zone.
I don't understand what the big, me personally, I don't understand what the big deal is. Maybe I'm missing the boat here. I really don't. I mean,
No, I agree. I mean, I think
first off,
it
if
would
you
be.
have a building in a business district, right? Zone, and you choose to take that and make it apartments as opposed to maybe potentially making money off of the business. That's your, to me, that's the person that owns that property's choice.
As I can understand the concerns on a straight in a business zone, because we have a lot of unusual business zones. Let's put it out that way out there. But with that being said, or some unusual business zones. With that being said, I would see, as a planner, if you will, I would see the concerns of 100% apartment
I
buildings
don't
in
want to
a
walk down
business zone.
Main Street and see 100% of apartments. I think it's fine if they're above and below, as long as the facade that's facing the public road is a business.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
and-
essentially ground level as well, or
Yep.
redefining ground level, but having some sort of form of
And I
business.
get that on Main Street, right?
Right. But if there's
Yeah,
a business zone.
I mean,
down
going out Route 11, north, I don't,
Is that zone business? I mean, it depends on where the business is.
I just, you're not walking by it, especially at this place, I mean, you really gotta break your neck to even look back here, but,
Sure.
I mean, for the purpose of this, yeah,
If we're interested in.
I'm open to whatever you guys think is best there.
So are we looking for language right now, or just direct you guys to come up with some language and let's have a public hearing next month on it?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got to take some, I got to make sure I understand what y'all want. I mean, we don't have to draft the language. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but I certainly need to understand what y'all are desiring to take to public hearing.
I mean, I would like to allow apartments in the business zone, either above or below ground floor, which is my interpretation of ground floor is what is facing the public road.
That's fair.
And you guys can make that pretty however you need to, you know.
As a permitted use. Just does not come to y'all.
I think that should be a permitted use, I think.
I can't think of it.
So,
Can't think
well,
of a reason why we ever say no.
the next question then is it just one floor above and below that would be a permitted use and any additional would be by special exception, or any number
I think
above and below?
any number,
Yeah, I don't see why.
as long as that main floor is.
I mean, if that's what we're,
Think about
I don't
what's
care if
the,
they
what's
built
the
five
tallest
story-
building.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah,
say, we do have some building codes and, you know, as far as number of heights and, you know, height and stuff like that. You know, if somebody
Yes,
wanted to
absolutely.
build one, you know, in a business zone, so we don't need to restate that.
And that's pretty standard in a lot of towns and counties.
It just seems, I mean, I cannot think of an instance when we would deny it, so why would we put ourselves having them to constantly come to us to ask?
I mean, you think about the public, which way would they lean?
Right.
If they're coming in at a hearing, if they did come.
So are y'all in agreement of at least 90% of the ground floor is devoted to a business use?
Yeah.
That allows, I think the intent of that is to allow some flexibility for a store owner to live in their store or something like that. And then, and that would be a permitted use, or that would be a requirement. And then above and below, essentially, as long as that's met, it's a permitted use to have upper story apartments or even basement, something like that. I think that's enough direction for us. So let me tell you this, and let me review this, and it has come up in the past. What are we thinking about short-term rentals in a business zone, in these apartments, whole house short-term rentals?
You mean, so I have one that I'm managing right now. I'm not managing the short-term rental, but I rent an apartment to a business. And they have it's actually a business thing, and then they have a little apartment in the back. And so they came to us and said, can we rent that out short-term? They have to get the business license, they have to pay the tax, they do all that stuff. So, you know, to me, I think that's fine. You know, it's in a business zone, so I don't care because you've got people coming and going. It's not like a residential neighborhood where you've got people coming and going. It's business.
we just approved the campground,
Right.
Not saying, but I mean, if we're using that as a, context, I mean, it's in a business. I mean, there's so many cars that flow in and out of that. Who knows really which vehicle belongs to anybody anyways. And then there's also hotels and motels that,
But I think in this situation,
I'm assuming
they
that's
still
their own
have to have a
business.
business license. They still have to get an inspection by the county. You know, that's,
Well, the only requirement for a whole house rental is a short-term rental registry. You're not required a business license for a whole house rental.
well, so is it considered a whole house if somebody had an apartment and they wanted to rent it out at Airbnb?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, if you're renting out the whole house, if you're renting out the whole apartment, you would be the short-term rental registry. If you're renting out a room in your apartment, that goes back to the
Airbnb.
business license, that type of,
Right.
if I understand, that's correct.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we would limit
Okay.
that.
unless you think it needs to be a special, I don't see any
And
reason.
if I'm renting out an apartment in a business zone, I'm not gonna let them sublet. I mean, we have on there, you can't sublet. It's in our lease, you can't sublet. But there may be other people who are fine with that. You know, there may be other companies that say, I don't care, as long as you're paying your rent, I don't care how you pay it. So,
And as a land use decision, y'all aren't concerned. That's what I'm trying to get, the land use. Okay. So I think we have, Ms. Huffman, do you have any clarifications or, yeah,
Not right now.
I think,
I'm sure I'll think of something else.
you got my email address?
Send everything to Melissa. So
You have my proxy.
yeah, I think that we know what the goal
Sure.
is.
I guess my only question to you, because you've been doing this a long time, is what are we not thinking about? What would a negative, if you were arguing we shouldn't be doing this, what would your,
Well, I mean, I think it is. As a planner, if you will, I do think that some sort of core a core is a proper word, some sort of core business use is appropriate in our business zone. You know, with that being said, it's also a very unusual. This is also a very unusual circumstance where you have a basement. I'm gonna call it basement level from here on out,
Right.
not ground floor, but you have a basement level. I'm not sure I know of any other buildings in the, I'm not saying business zone, but it's sort of like core commercial business zone
Right.
that
Well,
has
so
that.
303 White Street has condos, 11 condos. Two of those, actually, there's one of them. It's in I mean, it's in the basement.
I
It's
mean,
below.
in the county per
Right,
se,
Right,
absolutely.
but I'm
yeah.
just saying, so that though, because it's like commercial there, they can rent those out Airbnb, and they do. And, yeah, that's fine. They own them, you know, because they're condos, they're owned, and so they can rent them out, and they do that. So I'm just saying, you know, it happens.
Sure.
Yeah, I understand. It's not the county.
Yeah, and just along essentially the areas of the county, I'm uncertain on existing businesses, like your retail service, professional office, whatever it may be,
Can't think of anything.
that have that basement level. So would y'all like any type of special exceptions? Like, let's say, and I'm thinking about loud what I'm gonna be thinking about during writing this, like if there's a business use on bottom, the ground floor, and there's 2 floors above it, both of those apartments.
I'm thinking about that. If you go out 11 on the left, there used to be Edward Jones was out there, you know, and it was like, and I think that had 2 floors above it, or was that just a 2-story?
That
I
was
was
a
thinking-
2-story.
Right. So, I mean, if the first level is business, I don't think we care that there's more.
Or even 2 levels above.
Right.
2 levels
Yeah,
above.
I mean, I just don't know in what case would we say no? Why do we care? It's above. As long as what's facing the street on that main level is business, I don't care if it's 2 stories or 6 stories, you know, as long as it's within compliance with whatever the height is that we require.
Okay. No, I think we have enough direction.
I guess my
to
question
craft
to you
something.
is, do you see a reason not to say it's okay? As a planner, you've been doing this a long time. Like, what is the negative that we're not thinking of?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I really have not had time to do as much work as I should have on this to even review it.
Just
that
in my
much.
mind, I always say, okay, in what circumstance would I say, no, it's not okay? And I can't think of a situation where I would say, oh, I've got a problem with that. You should only have 1 story above.
I mean, I guess somebody would say you have 4 apartments, and the 4 apartments on the 3rd floor, they're gonna rent out like a B&B. And they, you know, they have a kitchen in them. I don't care. I mean,
Right.
that's right.
Do it all.
Yeah, I mean,
Congrats.
And it's not going to come up too terribly. I mean, it has not come up. I think it's come up twice in the 20 years I've been here. You know what I mean? As far as upper story apartments, even.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so I'm
In
not.
the
I'm
county,
not
we don't have a
foreseeing.
whole lot of that, so.
I'm not foreseeing any negative aspects, but and I of course would have put that out there if I did.
Mhm.
But with that being said, yeah, well, I mean, it just because we're taking a public hearing it does not
Maybe
mean
somebody
that.
in the public will
Yeah.
bring up something we haven't thought
Or
of.
based
you
on
know?
additional research, we very well may find some other, pros and cons or something like that. So,
Right.
so no, I think it's clear direction. I'm not seeing anything wrong with it at all. And we will take it that the first floor, the ground level, and that's the street at grade, essentially the ground level as we're determining it is the grade of the
Basin.
public street.
Yeah.
Of the grade of the public street essentially. That has to be 90% devoted to a business use. And then upper stories or below will be permitted use.
Permitted use. Yep, I think that's right.
Thinking
I don't
anything?
know. She's got that face.
Well, I was just,
Uh-oh.
I just looked at something that was highlighted here about group living arrangements and to what extent that would come into play for the residential use. Like a
I'll give you an example. Lone Star.
unrelated,
Right, so Lone Star is what I manage, 35 Lone Star, which is out 60. So there's 6 bedrooms in those and 3 bathrooms. You know, that's I mean, we rent out the whole house. It's one lease. They're all equally and severally responsible for it, but those are unrelated people. I don't know how that would affect
We don't have any
apartments.
provisions in those zoning ordinance of
Numbers of unrelated people.
unrelated people
Yeah,
living in
Buena
the
Vista
same
does and
house.
Lexington does, but Rockbridge does not.
But back to Ms. Huffman's question is, I don't think one of the, and you're talking about like assisted living facility or is that what you're talking about?
There's certainly the potential for group living arrangements.
But I don't know if that would be considered the apartment or condo type thing. I mean, it would be.
Well, it wouldn't, but it depends on how you describe the type of use that's residential use that's permitted on those additional floors.
Single family units,
There's not
basically.
anything saying it. These are multifamily dwellings.
So you're saying that somebody could take a whole third floor and say, we're gonna have, basically make it like a hospital, have rooms for all the people that are gonna stay there in one shared living
I'm just
space.
saying that just jumped out at me
Yeah,
as
no, I'm with
something
you, and
to
it's-
address as far as
Of course, that would then
to
probably be a
permit or
business
not
use.
permit.
That probably would be a business use at that point,
Well,
right?
it could be.
I'm thinking about the family,
And
remember
is it
Presbyterian
something you might
Homes?
want?
Right, remember Presbyterian Homes was out on Old Buena Vista Road, and there was a house which we put 6 bedrooms in, and then there was another house that was like individual, and they were all unrelated, but they had one caretaker overlooking adults with mental handicaps, and it was, it worked out really well. I think they've since closed, but
And there's some state law pertaining to eight people that we have to treat as a single family dwelling.
I think
That's
right. I haven't looked at it.
and I think they increased the numbers because it's we
amended, right?
yes. So our definition, this might answer it. Our definition, and we probably want to clarify it because right now we just say upper story apartment / condominiums and just leave it at that. So we may want to clarify it to upper story multifamily dwellings or lower story, obviously, And a multifamily dwelling is a building designed for or occupied exclusively by 3 or more families living independently of each other. The term includes condominiums of similar physical appearance, characteristic, and structure.
So what that means,
more
if you have a
confusing.
man and a woman or whatever, they gotta be married? Or what if they're brother and sister? What if they're 4 folks from WNL wanna?
Well, it's designed for or exclusively occupied. So the design for is going to kick in because it's the building designed for or exclusively occupied by 3 or more families living independently. So I think we're actually pretty covered because a building
think that is
designed
too.
for 3 or more families living independently of each other.
yeah, so those are each single family dwelling.
Kitchen, you could not have one core kitchen component with
People all sharing the kitchen.
yes. As one ground level, let's put it that way, because it would not be
But you
considered.
don't want to mandate a certain number of those kind. The space would dictate.
Whether
what
you have
they
2
needed to
or, I mean,
be.
it could be 2. You could have a duplex that's on the second floor where they
Or-
divide it. So in fact, we're getting ready to do that downtown on one. And so the upper floor right now is just gonna be one big apartment. But when
Right.
the owner's kid graduates from BMI, then it'll become 2. Well, that's not 3 or more. It's still multifamily. 2 or more is multifamily.
What's that? I think the whole building would be considered a multifamily building. We do define apartment. So maybe let me see if the apartment is
Well,
a
and-
unit in a multifamily dwelling, providing living for a single family, which separates access to the outside, usually not provided, in which major orientation of the unit is horizontal rather than vertical. Any condominium unit or similar physical character, appearance, and structure. So
And Vivica, we just call those mixed use because you're gonna have, on one level is gonna be commercial, then the others are gonna be residential, basically.
We actually define, we define condominium as well.
I thought was that if you define each story as a multifamily home, then you divide it between the people, whereas consider the building a multifamily. Or we did it.
You could have one family on the first floor and one family on the third floor, as long as you had commercial on the second floor.
Instead of saying, define three families in one floor, I think it's
Uh-huh.
I'm following you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our definition of family is one or more persons.
Right.
Drum roll.
Related
Uh,
persons.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and now because the familial status is a, protected class, you pretty much, if they say they're a family, I don't care who it is, they're a family.
So it might have to do a little bit more, but I understand the intent of what we're after. But how we get there may take a little bit of head scratching. But we'll do our best to I think we, go ahead.
I don't think we need to
But
make it
well, I guess
complicated.
My point was, if they brought you a plan to put 3 apartments on the third floor, but only 1 apartment on the basement floor, it would
It-
still meet what I think they're saying they would like to see.
Right,
Right.
because the building is a multifamily building. We're not talking about multifamily on per floor.
Right, and
Yeah,
not
so-
saying you have to have 3 apartments per floor.
Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah,
But
because
you would
an
have
owner
to-
may say, I'm gonna take the basement, I'm gonna have my business on the main level, and then I'm gonna put 3 apartments upstairs or whatever. That should be allowed by right.
Or even 1 or 2 apartments upstairs.
Yeah.
I assume is fine as well. But
Yeah.
would we be interested in a minimum of 3 in the whole
Yeah.
building? I mean, I don't even know.
No, I guess
No.
that's
I
a question
understand
for
why you-
them. I get the impression they
No.
don't want a minimum.
I think it should be their discretion on how they utilize their.
Space, as long as they've got commercial on the first floor, I don't care how many apartments they put on the first or third
100%.
floor, or the basement or third floor,
Yep. Okay. No, I think we know the direction. How we word it will to be determined next month.
Brain trust
And
together
hopefully
right
that's
there.
included in your
3, 3,
package.
3. Yeah.
All right, perfect. No, I appreciate that. That's good discussion, full circle discussion, but we are clear on what y'all's direction is and we will take it and run.
If you do think of anything that could be negative, if you could maybe
Yep.
email us or.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And so we need a motion to dismiss.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second,